Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about The Monkey King. The Monkey King is an American animated film that tells the story of its titular protagonist, the Monkey King, inspired by Chinese folklore surrounding the character. He trains from an early age to be a master fighter, and seeks to become a god by defeating as many demons as possible so that the immortal ones will aid his ascension. He travels across the land with his assistant Lin and his trusty weapon Stick in order to fulfill his dream. He fights his way through many adversaries, from demons to dragons to gods, but will eventually be forced to realize that his greatest enemy is himself. I'm only familiar with the legend of the Monkey King at a very basic level, but I have to say that this movie was a lot of fun to watch. Even though there are some issues with it, for a movie that's less than 90 minutes long, it's shocking to see how much entertainment the filmmakers were able to cram into it and how well it's pulled off. Jimmy O Yang voices the lead role of the Monkey King, and he adds a fun quality expected for a character like him. He's a cocky rebel who doesn't like playing by the rules, and his unruly nature and mannerisms makes him appealing as he's getting started with his adventure, especially with how well timed his jokes are. As he starts making progress, he becomes less likable, but it makes sense within the context of the story. He'd never been raised by a family, and so he lacks the proper moral guidance to help him distinguish right from wrong. His ego is all he knows, so I actually found him becoming more sympathetic over time, even though he acts like a complete jerk throughout the movie. The other character, Lin, isn't all that memorable by comparison. She doesn't do a whole lot in the story other than be a sidekick for the Monkey King, which is fine to an extent, but it's kind of boring to see her spend most of the movie being this bland. There is a reason for her being so helpful toward the Monkey King later on, and there is kind of an attempt to explain her backstory, but the movie never takes full advantage of these things. Even with how much Lin tries to reason with the Monkey King as the story progresses, there just isn't a lot of weight behind their interactions. The story is fairly predictable in the sense that it follows a pair of characters who go on a big adventure and end up saving the world in the process. It's what it does with this structure, though, that makes it worthwhile, as it does a lot of interesting things with the various aspects of its folklore, and especially the Monkey King's status as the hero. It's more of an anti-hero story where the Monkey King does things for himself. Even when he helps others, there's always some sort of ulterior motive at play, like wanting a song named after him, or winning a medal, or trying to gain immortality, and it's this latter aspect that makes him so intriguing. On one hand, he's taken down tons of bad guys that would otherwise torment innocent people, but on the other hand, his feats go to his head and he becomes more and more power hungry. He ends up causing more trouble than good, but there is still good inside him that's yearning to be freed, and it's this dynamic that gives the story its emotional stakes while helping it stay focused. The scale of the adventure itself is epic in scope, which is fitting considering the legend this movie is based on. The Monkey King and Lin travel many different lands and encounter unique adversaries in each one of them, and it's cool to see them all just based on how much variety they add. The pair go through forests, underwater, across the sea, and even into hell itself, and each time the Monkey King goes through them, he gets one step closer to achieving immortality. It's almost like a video game with how he progresses from one place to another, and this helps with the pacing of the story. It being a work of animation adds a lot more color and personality to its story, and in this regard it's pulled off really well. It has an appealing art direction with its character models, and they're all fluidly animated, which is especially impressive considering how much action is in this movie. I was surprised by how intense this movie ended up being. The Monkey King's skills with his stick are hypnotic, hard rock music blares in the background during the fights, and it's cool to see him take on so many bad guys with so many different abilities. Not since Maya and the Three have I seen an animation have this much action crammed into it, and it's a blast to see. Aside from the action, I also enjoyed seeing all the Chinese cultural elements that were put into it. The different characters and their roles within the movie's world, the philosophies they espouse, and the amount of iconography present in it make it feel like a true cultural experience, as opposed to being just a typical fantasy. Again, I'm not totally familiar with the story of the Monkey King, so I'm not sure how well adapted it is from the original source material, which is hundreds of years old. This being said though, the movie is clearly targeted toward a younger demographic, so it's nice that the movie appears to be faithful to its source without overwhelming the audience with tons of exposition. The movie definitely prioritizes entertainment above all else, and the comedy ties in well with the action on that front. The banter between the Monkey King and Lin is funny on its own merits, but there are other characters that add to the humor too. The Dragon King was one of the funniest characters of the movie for me. He's basically the main villain of the story and tries to take the Monkey King's stick so that he can use it for his own misdeeds. His antics reminded me of Wile E. Coyote, with how much he keeps trying to get what he wants and failing, and his flamboyant personality is amusing too. As the movie continues, it starts towing the line between being kid-friendly and not so kid-friendly, It never goes into nightmare territory or anything like that, but there were some aspects to its presentation that had me questioning what kind of tone it was going for. The violence can be a bit shocking at times, the occasional use of profanity is odd, even with hell being a part of the story, and the Monkey King's jokes are sometimes just straight up mean. There's even a scene where he and other characters eat poisoned peaches that are basically treated like alcohol, and the whole scene felt just a bit weird to me. Thankfully, these moments are few and far between though, and they don't get in the way of its main theme regarding how it addresses fulfillment. The Monkey King's ego and obsession with his goal of immortality leads him down a dark path, which signifies how important it is to strive for something more meaningful and constructive. His loneliness also plays a role in shaping who he is. He lacks the proper support necessary to guide him toward a path of virtue, and it isn't until later on when other characters start helping him that he finally realizes what is truly just and important, and I enjoyed seeing him reach this conclusion. Overall, The Monkey King is a solid work of animation that tells an old story in a new way that all audiences can enjoy. If you like animated movies and want to see one that tells a story from a more cultural perspective with lots of action involved, you should check this one out. While it can be over the top at times and has some problems with its story and characters, it remains an entertaining ride from beginning to end with a nice dose of cultural significance behind it. It's not the deepest animated movie one can watch, but it's still a lot of fun. And in the end, there's no harm in monkeying around a little. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy how action-packed and funny it was, or do you think it was lacking in substance? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of The Monkey King. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the South African romantic drama, Love, Sex, and 30 Candles. Bye bye!